When we hear the word Viking, most of us imagine the same image: tall warriors, light skin, blonde hair, blue eyes, men from the far north of Europe sailing across cold seas, raiding distant lands. This picture feels so familiar that we rarely stop to question it. But modern DNA research suggests something important: not a dramatic twist, not a shocking reversal, a quiet correction. And it changes how we understand who the Vikings really were. For a long time, history told us a simple story. Vikings were Scandinavians, people from Norway, Sweden, and Denmark. A single group united by blood, culture, and origin. They were described as a distinct people, clearly defined, ethnically uniform. This view appeared logical. Most historical accounts were written by medieval authors, and archaeology focused mainly on objects, not individuals. Swords, ships, helmets, and burial styles became symbols of Viking identity. If you were buried with these items, you were labeled a Viking. But objects can travel, people can move, and identity is not always fixed. Bones, it turns out, can tell a deeper story. In recent decades, scientists began studying ancient DNA taken directly from Viking-age graves. These were not isolated cases. Hundreds of remains were analyzed from sites across Europe. From Scandinavia, from Britain and Ireland, from Eastern Europe, from regions far beyond what we usually imagine as the Viking world. The goal was straightforward: to understand biological relationships, to see how Viking populations were connected. The results were careful, measured, and very clear. The genetic picture did not match the old assumption. DNA evidence shows that Viking was not a single genetic identity. Many individuals buried with Viking weapons, Viking clothing, and Viking rituals did not have Scandinavian ancestry. Some had roots in Southern Europe, some in the British Isles, some in Eastern or Central Europe. At the same time, people with strong Scandinavian ancestry were found buried far outside Scandinavia. This suggests something important. Being a Viking was not only about where you were born, it was about how you lived. Viking identity appears to have been cultural, not strictly biological. If you adopted Viking customs, sailed their trade routes, followed their social rules, and lived within their communities, you could become part of the Viking world. This means Vikings were not a closed ethnic group. They were a flexible society. They absorbed people. They integrated outsiders. They formed alliances through trade, settlement, and marriage. DNA does not show a single Viking type. It shows diversity. This changes how we understand Viking civilization. Instead of a fixed tribe, the Vikings look more like a network. A system connected by ships, rivers, and trade routes, stretching from North America to the Middle East. They were raiders, yes, but they were also traders, settlers, and negotiators. Some Viking graves in Scandinavia contain individuals with clearly foreign ancestry, and some graves outside Scandinavia contain people who were genetically local, but culturally Viking. In other words, Viking identity could be learned. It could be joined. This helps explain how Vikings expanded so quickly. They were adaptable. They formed connections instead of isolation. They moved easily between cultures. Their strength was not uniformity, it was flexibility. So why did traditional history miss this? There are several reasons. First, written sources were limited. Most accounts were written by outsiders, often enemies, often centuries later. Second, archaeology focused on material culture. If a grave looked Viking, the person was assumed to be Viking. Third, modern historians were influenced by ideas of race and nation. These ideas shaped how the past was interpreted. Even when the evidence was incomplete, DNA technology simply did not exist. Now it does, and it allows us to check old assumptions against biological data. It is important to be precise. DNA does not say Vikings came from everywhere. Scandinavia was still the core. It does not erase Scandinavian identity, and it does not deny shared traditions. What it shows is movement, mixing, integration. It shows that ancient societies were often more complex than the stories we tell about them. The Viking world was not built on purity. It was built on connection. People entered it, people left it. Ideas and genes moved together. That openness may be the reason Viking influence spread so far and lasted so long. They were not powerful because they were the same. They were powerful because they were connected. So the next time we imagine a Viking, we might need to adjust the picture, not as a single face, not as one ancestry, but as a shared way of life that crossed borders and bloodlines. And that raises a larger question. If Viking identity was cultural, not genetic, how many other ancient civilizations are we still misunderstanding because we confuse culture with ancestry? And what else might history reveal when science is finally able to speak alongside stories?